Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. And France have kept the Six Nations alive as an 18-minute penalty by Bryce Dulin have kept the French team in it. They seal a 32-30 victory over Wales. What an absolute mind-blowing game. Incredible scenes in the Stade de France. An incredible game. It literally had it all. It had it all. It was a brilliant, tight contest. I mean, if anything told you how tight it was the possession stats. 50-50, an incredible game. 17-17 at halftime, 32-30, two teams who are both deserved winners of the Six Nations. It can only be one, and it is out of Wales' hands. France will go to Scotland, we'll host Scotland next week Friday, and 20 is the magic number. 20 is the magic number. France will have to go and beat Scotland with a bonus point by a margin of 20 points or more. That is what they need to do to win the Six Nations after an incredible encounter. But yeah, before we look at the actual sort of game, break it all down, please do smash like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well if you are new. Let me know what you thought of that encounter. I thought it was, you know, what maybe was supposed to be the finale of Six Nations. It really did feel like a final. I mean, that was incredible Test match rugby. You know, regardless of what team you support, you cannot help but admire both those sides in it. But yeah, let's have a look at it. So, I mean, a game which was really tight in the first half. France scored a really good try, and then Wales hit back equally well. So I thought that, you know, it was really, really well balanced, and Wales had some very, very good moments on the ball. France didn't look like sort of characteristic France we've seen. They didn't look as comfortable as we've sometimes seen them over the tournament. They didn't always look their sort of free-flowing self, and that was largely to a very good defensive effort by Wales. I mean, I think Wales held the ball up against France 3 times, was it, over the try line? There was some phenomenal scramble defense by Wales, and France, you know, they also had some very good moments and very good defense. And what was quite interesting was the sort of tactic by Wales and how often Gareth Davies was kicking quite deep to the France back three, which is quite a dangerous thing to do. And, you know, he got hooked pretty early, and I sort of wonder if maybe that was sort of the case, because they even mentioned on the commentary where they were saying that they seem to be kicking quite deep, which against the back three, I mean, you've got something like Bryce Dulin who's playing so well. Why would you give him as much opportunity in the ball as possible? But, it was a fantastic, first half, you saw 2 tries apiece. Dupont and Navidi both going over shortly before half-time. I thought Navidi was fantastic, and Dupont was a little bit quiet to his usual self. But yeah, and I think refereeing has always been in a big sort of part, in a big sort of conversation. And, you know, the one thing I didn't like was the fact that when there was a yellow card to France and then the red card to Ball Willemse, which is I think it was a harsh red, I think, because I don't think the intention was there. You know, he wasn't intentionally eye-gouging, but it was a neck roll, so it was a yellow card. And unfortunately, you know, when you replay things and you slow them down, they're freeze frame with the hand clearly around the eye region. It is dangerous, and that is the letter of the law. That is a red card. But shortly after that, Wales were then reduced to 13 men, and that's why France came back and scored those 2 tries. There were also 2 moments that I think France will probably feel a little bit hard done by. First of all, the try in the second half or in the first half by. I think it was the Navidi try. So the Josh Adams try, where they thought it was held up, and the on-field decision was a try, and there was no evidence to overturn that decision. Which is why I really don't like the fact that there is that sort of on-field decision. For me, if you're going to use technology, it needs to be a try or no try question, because that just reduces the amount of ambiguity. You know, if you say, right, try or no try, and the person comes down and says, I cannot see evidence that he has grounded it, therefore no try. But he said, I cannot produce enough evidence to be able to say 100% that he hasn't grounded it, therefore go with your on-field decision. And you can understand both sides, because the referee can sometimes have a different angle to the different camera angles that you have. So he might have seen a grounding which doesn't get picked up on the monitor. But at the same time, sometimes, you know, you can see something and not be able to see the full picture, because you've also only got that one angle. And when you look at it from the different angles, you can suddenly see maybe a hand there. And there was also that when the I think it was Camille Chat who went over, and Gail Fiku, a couple minutes later, was saying, how can you not check the grounding? We got it over. And he was, you know, almost certain that they managed to get over. And replays, it was difficult to see where the ball had gotten over because there were players in the way. But it did look like the player himself had managed to get sort of over the line. Where they had grounding was 50-50, but they didn't go and check that. So I think that's where France were quite annoyed. But, Faletau going down and Wales down to 40 men, and then Liam Williams literally going down 2 minutes later, all the right calls. So, it was 1 yellow card, 1 red card for France, 2 yellow cards for Wales. So there were cards on both sides, and they definitely played a major role in the game. If it wasn't 14-13, I don't think France necessarily would have won the game right at the end, especially when you think that that overlap have existed, if Liam Williams was still on the field. So some fine margins, but a fantastic game regardless. If you look at some of the stats, time of possession, 16 minutes each, 48% possession for France, 52% territory, 52% for Wales. Both spent 6 minutes in the opposition 22. 12 minutes, 54 seconds in the opposition half for France. 30 minutes, 48 seconds for Wales. Points per visit to the 22 was 3 each. If we look at some of the other stats, line breaks 6-5 towards France. Attempted tackles, 181 tackles attempted by France, 229 attempted by Wales. 194% success rate by France. That French defense is huge at the moment. It is such a good defensive unit. To make 94% of tackles, that's why they were still in the game when they had to go. And yes, there were a couple of moments where their probably defense could have been a little bit better. When you look at some of those tries, overall it was really, really good. Wales, who have been characteristically over the years very, very good defenders, 84% will probably be a little bit frustrating for them. There were 11 dominant tackles for each side, 36 missed tackles by Wales, 11 by France. 1 turnover, 1 by France, 0 by Wales. If you look at the set piece, 100% scrum success rate for both, 39 out of 1 for France and 8-1 by Wales. They didn't lose any lineouts. There were 2 scrum penalties conceded by Wales. And those are sort of the major ones. But Josh, it was just a really good game, to be honest. And I thought there were some big performances. I thought Gael Fickou was very good, as was Bryce Doolan. I thought that Fakatawa carried the ball up immensely the entire game. I thought Charles Olivon was sort of a bit of a silent assassin. His work rate was very, very good. Josh Navidi was good. Tuparek was probably not as active as you'd like to have been, but it was in and around there. Faletau, I thought, carried the ball up quite well. Dan Bigger was good before he went off. I thought Liam Williams had a fantastic take in the first half with a really good up and under there. Jalabert was all right. Dupont was a little bit sort of, I thought, a bit subdued to what we usually expect to see from him. Paul Willemse made his tackles, but again, it was a bit of a poor yellow card to get rid of. You can't really... But Wyn Jones, fantastic once again. For me, he's been the standout prop in the competition. There are very few players that you're going to sit there and say actually had bad games, because I thought it was just 2 teams going at each other for 80 minutes playing really good rugby, and it was fantastic to watch. So the good news is we move to next week Friday, France versus Scotland, and it does actually mean something. All to play for, but also 20 points against a 20-point bonus victory against Scotland. Do not write Scotland off. This side is capable of putting up a real good fight. And I think you're going to see 23 Welshmen with Scottish jerseys on next weekend for what will be the close of the Six Nations. We will be live for it. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you smash a like on the video. Let me know what you think of the game. Let me know who you think is going to win the Six Nations. My name is Stephen. Thank you very much for watching. It's been a fantastic day of rugby. Seen some great results from across the various games. And yeah, looking forward to another week coming. So my name is Stephen. I'll chat to you very soon and keep well.